like how every single video that I do, the lighting is so different every single time. One day I'll make enough money to hire someone so that I have consistent lighting, and like, I don't know, maybe my bed could be made nicer in the background. But until then, I still haven't bought a new purple light. It's like $20, but every time I want to do it, I'm like, the $20 could go to something more important, like dog food. I need to buy dog food. Now that the perpetual purgatory that is January is over, people are being more serious about what they want to accomplish in the year ahead. Not like me, though. I always do what I say I'm going to do. But for most people that aren't me, January gets away from people, the haze of the holiday season starts to finally dissipate, and the reality of how quickly time passes becomes extremely apparent, which is why for most people, January feels like the longest month of the year. And if you're like, Lauren, that doesn't make sense. Sorry, in my head it did. So, like me, people start to reevaluate what they want to accomplish versus what they actually can accomplish in the time that is left of the year. And sometimes that means you buckle down and you get your shit done. And sometimes that means you reevaluate and you pick a new goal entirely. For those that need a goal that they can, 1, do over time, 2, makes their lives and their families' lives easier, and 3, makes the world a better place, this video is for you. Guys, today we're going to talk about the day that you're gonna die.
Hey Lauren, where are you gonna be buried?
Wild of you to assume that I want to be buried. I, like many other cool ass people in the world, have already planned what we'd like to happen to our bodies after we pass away. Usually people wait until they're sick or they're elderly to plan this stuff, or they don't plan it at all, and then it falls on their family's shoulders to handle everything and do what they hope you would have wanted. Which is rude. You're kind of rude for that. Also, because at least in America, the go-to is either cremation or a traditional burial with like embalming and shit. And then you end up getting like a lame ass send-off, and it's dumb and it's bad for the environment and expensive. Also, it's boring. Also, it's expensive. Also, it's stupid, and also it's dumb. So I thought it would be fun to introduce to you the different methods of burials and body disposals in the form of a tier list. And then from there, we can discuss resources, information on body and organ donation. And then at long last, you guys will get to hear what I plan to do after I die, which I know you're all so excited about. Anyway, here we go. First up, we have traditional burials, which probably everybody in your family has chosen. So that's boring. We hate that. But even more so than that, we hate traditional burials that include concrete vaults. I think more so than that, we hate stupid funeral homes with their overpriced caskets and they're like draining your blood for what? If you ask me, they're leeches for taking advantage of people at their most vulnerable, and they just want to like, I don't know, scam every dollar that your family has. I will say privately owned funeral homes are a different story for the most part. Like, there are some content creators that I follow on socials, and I'll put them here on the screen, and they own and run private funeral homes, and they do not treat families like blank checks, and they truly just want to honor the deceased, and that's it. They're not out to like make an extra buck. And so I'm not talking about them, but I do know that they would understand that I am lumping them in with like the funeral homes that are like scammy. I know that they know where I'm coming from. So with that being said, traditional burials, they're harmful to the environment due to embalming chemicals, and also most caskets are not biodegradable. Traditional burials, like as a whole, are known for just leaching chemicals into soil and water. We really care about the environment. Okay. Really, I just hate people being scammed. Like, I do care about the environment, please. But most of all, I'm an Aquarius. So most of all, I care about being different in a not cringy way. And I really hate the man, and not in a libertarian way. We like the man when it comes to social services. Okay. Thank you. So we're going to put it in absolutely not. I don't see a scenario where that's necessary. I think there's plenty of options if you're wanting a viewing when you die. There's plenty of options that don't require formaldehyde being leached into groundwater. So under no circumstances do I support this. Nope, it's not happening. And if you were wondering what this is for, traditional burials that include concrete vaults is literally you handing over your body to capitalism. I'm not even joking right now. Cemeteries that require concrete burial vaults, they do it under the guise of like, we want to prevent the ground from sinking and we want grandma's resting place to like look nice. We want it to be a nice place for people to come, and we don't want her casket being buried when it's already buried. You know what I mean? But in reality, it's really just about preserving the like manicured lawn and like the aesthetic of the cemetery, because like that's going to ruin the vibes where people come to grieve, like as if they care about that. So if traditional burial is already a hard pass, this is like the worst version of it. Pause, because I am filming this while the Super Bowl is happening and I really only care about the halftime show. So I went to go see how much time do I have before I need to run out of this room, and the score is interesting. Anyway, moving on. Okay, another option that you have is cremation, which is so boring. I'm literally falling asleep at how boring cremation is. I'm not even going to focus on the fact that it releases so much CO2 into the air. Like, let's move on from the environment. Okay, who cares? I'm more so concerned with what happens to your ashes generations from now when all of your family members have passed away and you have like your great grandniece that like has to make the decision of like, what do I do with this person's ashes? Like, I don't even know them. I know that there's families where cremation is like a thing that your family does, and so they'll just like end up combining all of the ashes of like all these old relatives into one urn, and that's great. No judgment. I'm not like super familiar with that in my family. I do understand why that would be appealing. I just think it's dumb. Obviously, y'all are free to disagree with me. There's so much better options out there that like to choose this. It's like, why? I don't know. Maybe this is me putting myself in the shoes of your great grandniece a little too much, but to put that responsibility on like this future family member's shoulders is like, it's kind of rude of you. Like, she's going to have to decide, what do I do? Do I scatter these ashes? Do I flush them down the toilet? She's not going to do that. But imagine, okay, so, I would put it under lame because truly at its core, it is just lame, but I'm going to have to say I should put it under absolutely not because of the environmental factor. But then I want to say like, well, the thing is that at least compared to traditional burials, it's not taking up like space on the earth. We might move it though. Okay, I just checked the time and we have allegedly 1 minute and 49 seconds left. Okay, so I'm immediately changing my mind. We're putting cremation under absolutely not because the next one is aquamation, which is alkaline hydrolysis. Aquamation uses water, lye, and heat to decompose the body into a liquid and bones kind of thing. It's eco-friendly. It uses 90% less energy than it does to do a traditional like flame cremation, and it produces no harmful emissions. The main problem that I have with aquamation, and it's not Aquamation's fault, is it's not legal in most states in the US. But what I do like about it is that it creates this like sterile liquid byproduct that can be safely returned to the environment and actually can be used as like a liquid fertilizer. So even though I do think this is good, I'm going to put it under But for you, it might be more of like a good option. I wouldn't say it's slay. It's hard to determine where to put this because we're just getting started. So for now, I'm going to put it under because it's not like wildly accessible. But we might move that. Okay, so next we have ash paintings. And before I place this, I'm realizing I'm gonna have to end up moving cremation out of absolutely not as we go along. I'm taking this so seriously, so let's see how all this ends up. Ash paintings are ashes mixed into paint for artwork. Like if your family member was an artist or you yourself is an artist and you like the idea of your ashes in artwork and creating basically like a memorial piece for you. There's also professional professional artists that like specifically do this for a living. So that is super cool. The only reason why this cannot be like a thing that I like highly recommend is because, again, we come back to what ends up happening generations from now. What happens with this painting? Obviously, like there are paintings throughout history that have not gone missing. They end up in museums. But like, would your ash painting end up in a museum? Probably not. So we're going to put this under lame. I feel like we're going to regret doing that. So I'm going to put this under because I don't know. We also have ash jewelry and we have ash sculptures. And I can tell you right now, an ash sculpture is lame. That's lame, dude. Like it goes along with like if you had a family member that is an artist or you yourself was an artist, that can be really personal. But here's the thing, super expensive, burdensome to your descendants. I do like that the sculptures can be, created to a form that, really reflects who you were as a person or like a message that you want to like leave as your legacy. But sculptures can break. So they're lame compared to a painting, lame. So Super Bowl update, the halftime show starts in allegedly 30 seconds if there's no timeouts. So I'm going to put a pause on this and go watch Kendrick, and then I'll be back. Mr. Get Off, I get off at my feet. Okay, I'm back. Body farms are super cool. There's actually a body farm here where I live in San Marcos, Texas, that is ran by Texas State University, and it's really cool. It's very helpful for forensic science, and they're able to put these bodies in different kinds of situations to see how they decompose over time. So they'll have one that is like completely exposed to the elements, and then they'll have one that is like 25% covered, 50% covered. And obviously, like, I'm simplifying it, but they aid with criminal investigations and just general research. And the data that comes from these body farms is used in solving like real world, like real actual crimes. So this is going to be the first slay method on this list. It's super cool. It's not for everybody, but it is super cool. So that is our first slay method. So then we have sea burial. Sea burial consists of a body or ashes being placed in the ocean, often in biodegradable containers. It's super unique. It's really cool if you were somebody who had like a special connection to the ocean, or you were really into like marine biology or even like marine. The only con really with sea burials is that it's heavily regulated to like prevent environmental harm, which is not a con. So there's really nothing I can say like badly against this. Specifically, the EPA permits sea burials in U.S. waters, but requires the site to be at least 3 nautical miles offshore. We'll actually talk about another variation of this later on. So I'm going to put this as slay. So then we have sky burial. So sky burials are where the body is exposed to scavengers as part of like a ceremonial process. It's aligned with a lot of certain like cultural beliefs, and it's generally considered deeply spiritual. As far as I'm aware, it's mainly practiced in Tibetan Buddhism because it's supposed to symbolize the cycle of life. The con for this is that it is very, very, very much limited to specific regions. So this is not necessarily something that you're going to be able to easily do. So I'm going to put this under because there's nothing lame about it, especially with the background of why people choose this usually. But just because of like the way that it functions, I'm going to put that here. And then we have space burial. So space burials are where ashes are sent into space via like specialized rockets. So on its face, you would expect me to immediately put this into slay because like literally how freaking cool is that, right? And beyond how insanely expensive this option is, it's generally only a tiny portion of your ashes that gets, launched into space. You can actually have your ashes launched towards the moon. There are companies that do this. The thing is though, is it's just a small portion of your ashes. And part of my whole thing that I personally like can't reconcile is like, what are you doing with the rest of your ashes? So I'm going to put this under It's not lame at all. In fact, I think it's very cool. And I would even say, like, even though it's a small portion of your ashes, like, if this is something you want to do, like, who cares? But it's really expensive. It's like crazy expensive. So I'm going to put it under Okay, then there are tattoo ink ashes. So again, this is deeply personal. Your family members can create like memorial pieces using your ashes. Obviously, not every tattoo artist is going to be, comfortable with this, but for the most part, if you can find somebody that is willing to do this, I think it is super cool. I'm actually going to put tattoo ink ashes under good. I'm not going to put slay, but I am going to put good. And I'm aware that this is kind of me contradicting myself, and we're all just going to have to be okay with that. This is just the way I would rank it. You might rank it differently. But out of all of the options where you're taking a portion of the ashes and doing something with it, I like this. I think this is a really cool option. And then we have mausoleum entombment. So this is the placement of the body in an above ground structure, often sealed in a casket. Some good things about a mausoleum is it protects the body from obviously the outside environment, and it's super cool. You have like this giant structure. So if you're like somebody who liked attention, or you liked, standing out from everybody, this is very much like the Trisha Paytas of burial methods. But a big problem with it is it's like super expensive. Not just the purchase, but like the ongoing maintenance of the mausoleum is crazy. I do think they're cool. Like I think it's cool how they use advanced ventilation systems to like manage odors and like the gases that come from your rotting body. But I think it is a really cool option if again, you're somebody who, I don't know, wants this, but also if you include your family members. Like, I think this would be a really cool place if it was big enough, and maybe even if it was just like your ashes, and instead of having a casket, to fit more people, you could have your whole family in there. For me personally, I'm going to put this under It's also expensive. I don't know. I'm going to put that here because I don't think it's lame. If I'm looking at all the options, I definitely don't think it belongs here, but it definitely doesn't belong here. So we're going to put it here. Okay, next we have the mushroom burial suit. So a mushroom burial suit is a suit infused with fungi spores that aid decomposition and detoxify the body. It helps neutralize toxins and supports fungal ecosystems. The designer of the mushroom suit calls it the Infinity Burial Suit. I'm going to be honest with you. This sounds dumb as hell. I don't know what it's talking about. I'm realizing in real time, I did not research this one as much as I should have, but using like an educated guess, it sounds like if you're doing some kind of green burial, this would be a good thing to use in place of a shroud, or like if you were going to use like a bamboo casket or even like a cardboard box. This would just be like another version of a green burial. So for that, I'm going to put it under good, but with the asterisk that I don't actually know what I'm talking about because I didn't look this up well enough. So sorry. Okay, next we have cremation. So cremation is where the body it's freeze dried with liquid nitrogen and then vibrated into biodegradable powder. It's still considered experimental, so it's not like a widely available thing. But if you're able to do it, it's fully biodegradable. I do know that this is performed in Scandinavia a lot, where environmental consciousness is like super high. This is super cool. If we're going to be talking about scattering ashes, which we are later, this is a powder where you could like, in theory, sprinkle this in your garden. I'm going to put this under good just because it's not widely available. And in that same vein, I'm actually going to move Aquamation up to here because it's the same thing. It's just a different form of breaking down the body, but they're both able to be used as fertilizer, and we like that. Next, we have a tree pod burial, which is actually my favorite option. I'm already going to put under slay because I know a lot about this one. If you're somebody in my family, you're probably laughing right now because I talk about this a lot. In a tree pod burial, basically your body is put in a fetal position and put in this basically like a giant seed. It's a biodegradable pod that they then plant and it grows into a tree. So it's a tree pod burial, right? Cool things about it. It creates a living memorial. Love that. It aids reforestation. And if I'm not mistaken, you can like walk through these forests and they will have like a geolocator for your family members to know which tree specifically is yours and how to find it. And there can even be like a placard for the person whose tree it is. So in theory, you could go to this forest and you could say, oh my God, there's Lauren's tree. So I'm a big fan of tree pod burials. In fact, I like it so much, I'm going to move it to the front because it's the most slay, in my opinion. And another reason why you should hate Texas, where I live, it's not legal here because they love traditional burials. They love it so much. It's actually disgusting. Okay, next we have fireworks ashes. So this is actually really cool, and I didn't know this was possible until I was researching for this video. You can use your ashes in a fireworks display. So imagine having a memorial after you've passed away. Your body has been turned into ashes, and this is it. You're having a memorial. Hello. And you want like a super memorable send-off, right? There are actually companies that offer this, and they can even incorporate like maybe your favorite colors or shapes. So like for me, obviously I would want my fireworks to be purple. The only con with this really is that it's like a one-time event. There's no like lasting memorial. It's like a one-time thing, which I am a fan of. I think that's cool. So I'm going to put under good. Again, it's still requiring you to do like a cremation. But in terms of like, what are we doing with those ashes? I think this is super cool. So then we have glass art ashes, and I'm realizing I think I confused ash sculptures with glass art ashes. The sculptures wouldn't be as breakable, I'm realizing, but I'm still going to put that under lame. They're both going to be lame because they're kind of lame. I wouldn't say absolutely not. I'm not a freak. But like, I'm good. Okay, then we have mummification. So I feel like we all know about mummification from like history classes growing up. Basically, it's the body preserved through embalming and wrapping. So it's long-term preservation. There are modern mummification services that companies can provide for people that are interested. Obviously, it's not as like widely accessible or like even utilized these days, but it is an option. I'm going to put it on like, because it's like, why? Why would you do that? I can't even think of like a culture or belief where like now in modern times, like that would be something that's chosen over other options. I wouldn't say it's lame because mummification next to these, that doesn't really fit. So I'm going to put it under here. So then we have recomposition or compost burial. Recomposition is where natural decomposition is accelerated in a controlled environment, which turns the body into soil. It provides a nutrient-rich soil for gardening and land restoration. Obviously, it's highly eco-friendly. Something that I love about this option is that after you're turned into the soil, that soil can be given to your loved ones or donated to like a conservation project. So there are people who will make sure that like, you know, a container of soil is given to each of like the major family members that you love, and they can then use it in their gardens, in their home, or they can donate it to a project that they specifically love. And then the majority of the soil can be given to wherever you want. So like if it was me, if this was the option that I chose, I think it would be cool to give some to family members for like their homes, just so that they have like maybe a place where they can go when they miss me. But I'm not necessarily taking up space in a cemetery. And then the remainder of it can be put in the forest where there are tree pod burials. Hello, that's super cool. So that is definitely slay, and that's going there. So we have cryonics. So cryonics is freezing the body in hopes of future revival with advanced technology. This is theoretical, okay? Some people are probably gonna get mad that I think this is funny, because I get it. We don't know where technology is going to lead us. If you've seen Interstellar, okay, you get what I'm saying. But really, like, the reason why I'm laughing is, why do you want this? There's only 200 people worldwide who have actually been cryogenically preserved, if I'm saying that correctly. It's extremely expensive, And also why? No one can answer me why. You're like, oh, but I want to see the future. Okay. I don't know. Maybe believe in like reincarnation or something. This is so stupid. In theory, it's cool. In actuality, like in actual practice, this is the stupidest thing. So I'm going to put this under, let's just do absolutely not. Okay. So then we have eternal reefs. So eternal reefs is where your body is turned into ashes, and then it is mixed with concrete to create reef structures that support marine life. So again, you have gone through some kind of a cremation process, but your ashes are actually turned into something really freaking cool. So obviously this is limited to coastal areas. That's not a big deal. But what I really like about this is that families can actually go snorkeling or diving to go visit your memorial. It's like, it's accessible, and also you're helping marine life. So I think that's really cool. And if I'm going to put firework ashes under good, eternal reefs definitely belongs here. So then we have Resomation, which is a water-based decomposition, similar to Aquamation, but it's marketed differently. So this is actually super eco-friendly and very gentle on the environment. The process is misunderstood because what it leaves behind is essentially your bones. So you do get some kind of ashes back, but instead of it being basically your whole body, it's just your bones that have been ground down, and those get returned to your loved ones. So in terms of like, if we're to compare this with cremation, which is usually misunderstood for, I would even say it's slay, because for some people that really want ashes to leave behind, this is the most eco-friendly way to do that. So I don't know. I'm going to put it here, and then in your tier list, you can put it there if you want to. Does that sound good? I just realized I have reef planting with ashes. It's the same as eternal reefs. So I'm putting that there. It's the same thing. Sorry. I don't know why I did that. Next, we have Tower of Silence. Tower of Silence is also known as Zoroastrian dogma, which is where the body is left to decompose on a naturally elevated structure, so like a mountain or like a giant hill. These are typically located in very remote areas. Obviously, it's also restricted to Zoroastrian communities. You're not going to just be like walking down a hiking trail and find like some body decomposing, and then, you know, you're like, oh my God, somebody take this dead body out of here. And they're like, oh, actually, that's the Tower of Silence. You never hear about that. And that's because they're only in these like very specific areas. So it is cool, but I'm going to put it under like, there's nothing lame about it. But it's just like, why? Especially if you're just like some random bitch like me from Texas, and it's like, why did you choose that? You know what I mean? You have no ties to that. So then we have vinyl record ashes. Again, you've been cremated. The ashes are pressed into playable records. I think this is super cool because it combines art and memory in a very unique way. Obviously, like, this is fragile, and this, you know, in theory, would go along with like ash paintings. The thing is, though, is that what I really like about this is you can actually have the record play, you know, like the deceased person's voice or maybe their favorite songs. Something about it incorporating like a lasting memory that even your great grannies, that bitch that's like, I don't know what the fuck to do with this would be something that even like a stranger would find interesting. So this is actually slay. You can call me contradictory, I don't care. That's slay. That's super cool. I would actually consider that if I were to like actually, like, let's say combine Aquamation with this. It's pretty cool. So then we have whole body donation. So let's say that you have passed away and you are donating your body to science. So you can donate it for medical research or just general education purposes. Obviously, it helps advance science and it helps train, you know, healthcare professionals. And what's also cool is they will actually then afterward, like, basically cremate you, and they'll return your remains to your family members. So if that is something that you wanted, so let's say like you want a traditional cremation, which I don't know why, but let's just say you do. This would be a way to do something positive for the world that you're leaving behind, and kind of cancels out the negative impact that a normal cremation does, because you're helping humanity. And then when they're done, you're like, okay, thanks for your help. Now you're cremated and you get what you wanted. So I think that's super cool. And because of that, I'm putting slay. It's super slay. Then we have Plastination. So if you've ever been to like Las Vegas and you've been to the Bodies exhibit, which by the way is super cool, you should go if you're ever in Vegas. This is where they will preserve the body with polymers for educational or research purposes. It contributes to science and education. The only con with it really is like normies think that it's like super impersonal and like don't understand it, which we don't care about them. It's irreversible. So in terms of like, if your family wanted your cremated remains afterward, sucks to suck. But I think this is super cool. I don't know if it's slay. I've decided it is slay. Yes. I don't know. I'm non-committal on that one. Okay, so then we have green burials. So green burials are like a direct burial in a biodegradable material, like a shroud, cardboard box, bamboo, whatever. There's no embalming. There's no stupid ass vaults. It allows natural decomposition and it's cheap as fuck. They don't tell you this, but it's actually like super cheap. In some ways, it's actually cheaper than cremation. And in super red states in America, most of them, it's legal. Even in Texas, which again, Texas is stupid and Texas hates anything environmentally friendly. Green burials are legal here. There are specific cemeteries that allow this. It might not be in your area, but like from where I live, there is a town 45-minute drive from here that has a giant forest. This is actually my backup plan. Your family members can be as involved as you or they want to be. They can lower you into the ground if you want. You get to choose like what environmentally friendly container you're put in. And then usually your grave marker is like a natural stone. And this one area in particular that I'm thinking of, and I'll put it on the screen, something really sweet is that they don't allow family members to leave objects behind because they want it to remain as natural as possible, but they do allow you to toss wildflower seeds, which I think is really sweet. And like for me specifically, I'm a big fan of like the tree idea. If they allow everybody to plant a tree at everyone's grave marker, obviously like the roots are going to grow and it's going to like disrupt everybody's grave. But if you're lucky, you can pick spot in the cemetery where you can be buried next to a tree. Green burials are very slight. We are a big fan of that, and that's that. Then we have organ donation. So organ donation isn't necessarily a burial method. This would be something that you can do in addition to the other ones. I don't remember why I included this. Obviously, this is slay, but then the question is, what's happening to the rest of your body? So I can't put that there. That wouldn't make sense. I'm going to put this under good with the asterisk that I don't know why I included this, because you could donate your organs, which is a very good thing. Please do it. Please register as an organ donor. More on that later. But then like what happens? You're just going to get cremated afterward. We don't like that. But then what if you're like a tree pod burial? We do like that. So it's going to go under good. There's nothing bad with it. Then we have scattering ashes. I would not ever say this is lame. Because again, for me personally, holding on to your ashes after you've passed has never made sense to me and only makes me think about future generations of like, what happens to you? What happens? This is just because it's like, I'm immediately changing my mind. Hang on. Let me think this through part of like my hang up of like what happens to your ashes. What does this like future generation person have to do with you? Like, why are you putting that on them? I like the idea that it's something that, you know, it can be a really sweet memory for the family that you've left behind. I like the idea that, you know, you can be scattered somewhere that means a lot to you. In fact, when I hear about people's ashes being scattered and wherever they're being scattered, people are getting pissed off because it's like, it is remains. I'm like, let's chill out. We breathe in worse stuff every day. So I'm going to put this under good. I think that's a good thing. Hey, so I'm editing right now and I'm laughing because I I think what I just said is that you breathe in worse things than human remains every day. Oh man, that's not what I meant. Then we have diamond cremation, where carbon from remains is turned into synthetic diamonds. It's super expensive. It does create like a beautiful keepsake that future generations will more likely want to hold on to, but it's lame because it's so expensive. I don't know. Y'all can disagree, but this is how I feel. And lastly, we have a bios urn. This is a biodegradable urn that uses ashes to grow a tree. It creates a living memorial that contributes to reforestation, and even though it does incorporate ashes, you're basically canceling out the environmental impact by choosing this option, and we're going to put that under good. So this is my burial methods tier list. It looks good to me. I mean, maybe there's like one or two that I would have changed, but I'm happy with this. I think if I was to move anything, I might move Aquamation up because I can't really remember. At this point, I don't remember what I had said that was bad about it, but everything else looks cool to me. I'm happy with it. I am interested in what you guys would rank these things as. So this tier list and all of these icons is actually available for you to use if you would like to. The link will be in the description. Okay, so now that we've rated our death options, let's talk logistics. Because once you've decided your post-mortem plans, making sure your plans are actually honored is going to be like obviously the next focus. As much fun as it is to imagine being turned into a tree or a diamond, none of that matters if you don't make it official. And if you don't make your wishes known or official in any way, your family is going to be having to make a decision for you out of stress, and they might end up being conned by these stupid ass funeral homes into choosing like a $10,000 plus option that you would have hated. So how do you actually make sure that this happens, right? You need to do 3 things first and foremost. You need a will, you need an advance directive, and you need a healthcare proxy. Your will is the first step. It's a legal document that outlines your wishes, but here's the catch. Wills are often read after the funeral. So while it's important to include your burial preferences in your will, it's not enough on its own. An advance directive is where you can get really specific. It covers medical decisions and end-of-life wishes, including how you'd like your body to be handled. Third, you need to appoint a healthcare proxy. A healthcare proxy is someone you trust to advocate for you. You can think of them as like your burial hype person. They're really important. And you need to keep these documents in a very safe and accessible area. My advice would be to share these documents with your family, but you can't just do that. You also need to have a conversation with them. Like, I get it. Talking about death, I guess, can be awkward. No one wants to be the person at like the family get together who's asking like, so what do you think about human composting? I mean, I don't care, but I've started enough of these conversations to realize that like not everyone thinks that it's like good dinner conversation. But here is why it's so crucial. So even if your family is skittish about this, you have to do it. Frame the conversation as like an act of love. You could say something like, hey, I want to make things easier for you when I pass away. So I have actually decided to XYZ. Here's the paperwork. This is a copy for you. My best advice is just blurt it out and then go from there. You can make a joke. You can keep it lighthearted. But my best advice is just say it. And then who knows, maybe the person you're talking to is also, you know, quote unquote, death positive. And you can have a more in-depth conversation from the first go around. And if it's somebody who's like more skittish about it, just say it, make it known. And maybe in a couple of years or once some time has passed and they realize they too need to be having these conversations, then, you know, hopefully you're still around for that. Also, something else I would love to talk about before this video is over is how to set up organ and body donations. We talked about it earlier, but I wanted to give y'all some specifics, and obviously all links that I'm talking about will be available in the description box. But I encourage everybody to be an organ donor. You don't have to donate everything, though I don't know why you wouldn't. It's super easy to register. If you live in the US, you can do it through your state's registry, or you can go to organdonor.gov. Something that I have heard a lot when I talk about this is that people think they're too old or too unhealthy to donate. And I disagree. I think let the medical teams decide that. Even if, let's say, you are an unhealthy person or you're too old, your skin and your corneas, those are things that could definitely be used no matter what kind of person that you are. And then as far as whole body donations, this is again something we talked about earlier. This is for people who want to donate their entire body for science and research purposes. But note that whole body donation excludes organ donation. So if that is something that you're considering, you're just going to want to choose which path feels more useful and meaningful to you. So unless you're like, no thanks, which I don't know why, but sometimes there are scenarios where hospitals or medical teams will ask for the consent from your family members if you just have it on your driver's license. And again, you might be completely different from your family, and that might not be something that they want you to do. So make sure that that is on like legal paperwork, just to ensure that no matter what happens, you're covered. Again, links for national and international registries will be available in the description below. Click them, register, be a hero, just do it. Finally, allow me to tell you what I plan to do when I die. I, not surprisingly, have chosen a tree pod burial. In the year of 2025, and especially with the kind of administrations that we have going on right now, in governments, tree pod burials are not legal in most states. They're going to be legal in a lot of like the blue states, specifically the West Coast. So in a world where I moved to either California or like Washington, because I love Seattle, I would love to be planted in one of those forests where all of the trees are people who have passed away. I think that's beautiful. I think it would be super fun for your family to have some place to go physically to pay their respects or just grieve. But at the same time, many, many years after you've passed, you know, you're only contributing to the environment and to Earth. I don't know. I just think it would be cool to be a tree. And worst case scenario, like absolute worst case scenario, let's say I die tomorrow. And I'm here in Texas, okay, and I hate it here. Let's just say that I die tomorrow, right? I have chosen a green burial. So I would like to be buried in a shroud, or it could be a cardboard box. I don't actually care, but I would like to be buried in a green burial site. Again, that's just what I would like, and I think it's contributing to the earth. And if, let's say that 2,000 years from now, if that cemetery, for some reason, something happens to it and they have to disrupt the area, I'm chilling. Like, I'm good with that, and I don't know. That helps me sleep at night, if that makes sense. Anyway, regardless of where my body is buried and the way that it is buried, what I actually have chosen is two things. I will be an organ donor. So if they want to take every inch of my skin and every inch of like my insides, I don't care. Do what you need to. Regardless, I will be donating my brain to science. There's actually a very cool organization called the Brain Donor Project that is partnered with the government, and essentially, regardless of how you die, whether you're able to donate your organs or not, whether you die as a young person or an old person, whether you're somebody who, had dementia or mental health issues, or you're somebody who had none of that, regardless, they want your brain for science, for research purposes. And something really cool about it is if you are somebody who dealt with mental health problems, or let's say it's your grandma who had early onset dementia or regular dementia, after they do the research that they need to do with your brain, your family can actually reach out to them and get a report of the findings that they found out about your brain. So even if it's something where you had multiple diagnoses and you weren't really sure like the full capacity of like what was like quote unquote wrong with your brain, that can be found after you die and after they are able to examine your brain. And that's super cool. And I like the idea that even if I die in my sleep, and that's a scenario where I cannot donate my organs, regardless, a part of my physical body is able to be used for good things. And I think that's super cool. All in all, this is one of those things that you can accomplish over time. So for this year, if you need a goal that doesn't require like your super immediate attention, that you can do in your free time, that can only help you and your loved ones, I think that this year, please take into consideration choosing this as a goal to accomplish. I know this has been different than like the normal content that I make, but this is something super important to me, and I think it's useful, and I think it's like a fun way to, I don't know, educate people that maybe haven't considered this because maybe they're young and they think that they have, 1,000 years left to go. But stuff happens, life happens, accidents happen. And even if you live into your old age, if you don't at least explore your options now, you might choose something that like the non-stressed version of you wouldn't have chosen. It maybe isn't as true to you as an individual is. Does that make sense? I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I encourage all of you to please share your wildest burial dreams in the comments below. I think this is super interesting. I think maybe there's even ways that maybe I haven't even heard of. So if you wanted to share that to help educate everyone, including me, that would be super cool. If there's something that you maybe don't like about one of the burial methods that I propped up, please share it. Maybe there's something that I haven't even considered, and I think it would be helpful. But again, I will be putting links in the description box for you as a resource, and I encourage you to check it out and do some reading in your free time. Just remember, death is inevitable, so let's make it slay.
His face hurts. And where is his glasses? He can't see without his glasses.